You guys have heard me talk a lot about presence and the signal and how it saved my life. And I'm always trying to, my being naturally in this dance comes up with a bunch of new ways to say it because it's kind of like I'm trying to tell people who are wearing glasses or like Plato would say, or in the cave, but never really maybe had the opportunity to touch presence and love in their own life. And so it's kind of like a tricky situation because everyone that hears this wants to turn it into another idea, another delay, another buffer, another methodology. But there's no methodology. It's just presence. It's just like the balance of you tuning with reality, you harmonizing with all that there is, you sort of surfing the waves of what's happening in this reality, not as a separate object, but realizing that you've always been that unfolding itself, you know? And so when your brain starts to switch modes, that's what I'm talking about. It's like a switch in mode. So you can think of it kind of like a game board is what came to me today, where it's like half the game, it's almost like you have a rule set, and the rule set could be like turned over, and it's like control versus love, right? And like, it's not that there's like this like ultimately simple binary, but there's a very real sense of like, even in natural systems, when they're not synchronized, there's actually like a phase state change that you go through between the phase transition of like not quite synchronized and then synchronized, kind of like ice becoming, whatever, water becoming ice or water becoming gas or vice versa. There's actually like a phase state change. And you can study this in like oscillatory mechanics, so you've heard me say, or fireflies turning on, or metronomes syncing up. But there's actually a point of like synchronization, like a point of phase coherence within, what we're studying, like the separate human beings or separate metronomes actually syncing up. And when that's inside you, when that decentralized organization happens inside you, what's the effect? It's presence. And so then what we're pointing at is a mechanical property that has this like scale invariance, right? Which means it's just the pulse of the way reality is. And so then you're like, well, okay, let's look at this game board. So one of the pulses says, I'm sort of dancing with reality, realizing that everything is part of this like sort of inextricable dance, within itself, you could say, into higher levels of complexity. And even in this environment that I'm walking in right now, it's not like things exist in a singular fashion and are in this endless battle against each other, but more like there's this, push and pull of the waves of inextricable, inextricable concatenation or connectedness of, the different rocks and the different plants and the different trees and the different animals. And so, in other words, it's not that there are separate systems unto themselves, discrete and not connected, but rather they are part of unfolding waves of the evolution of complexity of reality, right? And so then that's a fundamentally different way of looking at reality. And all of our words and all of our perspectives seem to tend towards this idea of separation, like at the root of it. It's almost like if they are projecting like a movie screen in front of us, the movie is constantly being projected through this like separation, through us versus them, through comparison, through standardization. And so again, think of it like a scale invariant property. So if synchrony can actually mean like presence inside you, like if that mechanical property of synchrony is placed inside you, and then you're here embodied present, then, and that works outside of you, then how did, like, for example, when I say it saved my life in, my journey, how did that work, Because when I say I trusted a signal of presence, to save my life, how did that work for me? You've heard me say it before, but it's worth saying it now that I've said all that. You can feel what it is. I'm not talking about, oh, I'm a present person because I got a plaque from my high school back in the day that said, you're a very present person. No, it's because it's a mechanical mode of my being coming into contact with reality. Do you see that? It's like presence is being here in reality. And the reason I found it is because of my trans identity. That embodiment was the path. Do you see that? Because for so long, you've heard things. Be here now. I and the Father are one. The way to spiritual bliss and all these different things. And you think it's just another methodology. It's just another ritual. It's just another gate that's, behind a paywall. Not a mechanical mode of being that any of us could enter into, because reality already has a decentralized rhythm to it. And only because we had these funny glasses on that told us that we had to see the world through separation did we ever get convinced that it was that way, when you saw it enough times over enough generations. So then when you go back to my signal, you're like, I lived my life in a way where it wasn't, sure, I was a spiritual person, sure, I was a philosophical person, but it wasn't like I've said before, I knew, and much to the surprise of my family, and it wasn't like that I knew where I was headed. I knew of my softness, I knew of my presence, I knew how it felt inside me, but in the life that I came from, emotional avoidance, narcissism, people who arrange their lives by separation, transaction, and control, not because they're bad people, but because that's the game board that they're playing from, right? And so then it's almost like if you flip that instruction set over, I kept thinking, because in my life, it was like I couldn't feel myself like all the way down. Again, think of yourself as different, like little intranodal processes, like a Russian doll, and there's like different like layers. And some people have created so many different layers, not even their fault, because of jobs, because of families, because of whatever it may be. And those parts are desynced. And when they're not synchronized, you're not here, you're stuck in your head, your simulated presence, your mind chatter and self-narration and anxiety and ruminative loops. And estrangement from this reality fills the gaps with what you might call simulated presence, right? And so then my life was this filled with this chatter, this internal delay. And still, I'm a verbose person. And still, I love to chat and philosophize and joke with Mama Bear and sing my songs. So it's not like ideas get deleted. They just stop looping, because reality is no longer seen from the game board of everything has to be control and friction, but rather it's flipped to the tide of reality is already asking for participation, and participation itself is presence. Like, not special robes, not special hats, not a special chant, not who has more money, but are you here and connected and dancing with this reality? And how do you know if you're dancing? Because you're present. Because you're present. Do you see that? Because that means my literal, mechanical, rhythmic processes that make me up as a being, as part of this inextricable unfolding reality. Again, nothing can be sliced. I don't care what angle you look at it from. Unless you're deep, deep, deep in Plato's cave, even if you're looking at, modern science, there's no part of that. Even if your mind tends to look through the separation, that can actually be separated below the Planck scale vibration, right? And so when you start to realize these things, then you're like, wait, like Plato said, you can describe the sunlight from the inside of the cave, but that'd be like trying to describe what dancing is without dancing. But once you dance, you realize you never needed to describe it. Like, you could, but you're probably going to describe it best once you feel what the flow is and feel what the dance is. And so, like, for me, I couldn't feel what the dance was, but I always had the type of soul, because I wanted to breathe. I wanted little ember in the time I didn't know what it was to live. I wanted those moments to expand when I felt truly like me, when for a moment all those layers did synchronize. Even before transition, there'd be little moments where that would happen. And that would lead me, again, not like a woo-woo signal, but a mechanical signal of synchrony with this reality, because inevitably all of us are just embedded whirlpool-like rhythms in a larger rhythmic wave of unfolding mind in the evolution of complexity in this cosmos. Okay? And so like, this was, my brain was already here, but it wasn't the ideas or the maps that had me dance the territory and sort of become the territory. It was because in my life, that environment that I was in, a control-based game board where everyone thought success, love, connection came from that attempt to control reality. But like we've already talked about, there's a decentralized pulse to reality. And if you realize that, then you're like, huh, there must be like mechanically easier ways to arrange this like organization of our collective, or really of our individual. And so taking it to, again, scale invariant, it works at all scales, right? And so then if we take it to that perspective, then we're like, all right, so then individual, my life before was like all these different layers that couldn't quite quilt together, right? It's like they couldn't quite fit together. They were like a bunch of band members who like, you know, just got together but couldn't quite play the rhythm together. And then there was a small part of me, like a little node inside me, you could say, that heard, that's me, that's me. And it wasn't because it was an idea, it was because I felt myself for a moment all the way down. That's what it feels like to feel alive and real in those moments, like the moments that you know in your life, when your baby's born, when you're making love, when you're riding your motorcycle in your favorite place, or whatever it is for you, on top of a mountain, you know? And you're like, wow, I'm really alive. I better do this particular methodology again so I can achieve this aliveness. And here I'm telling you, you can be that alive all the time by making presence your mode of being. And that's not an idea, but a mechanical process. Listen again. How did I find it? I found it because myself as a neurodivergent trans woman was so out of sync with myself. Synchrony, mechanical togetherness. Do you get it? Like when a DJ puts the waves together, that's what I'm talking about. Actual physics, like mechanical synchrony. See that? What does it feel like inside you when all your little metronomes, your baby little metronomes sync up? It feels like you're here, you're present, you're no longer in simulated presence. So can you see how that really helps a trans woman, especially one who was raised in an environment that eventually completely abandoned me, like literally told me to perish from this earth, and I was completely confused from my inner experience, like why my most honest expression was getting like some of the worst kickback of my life from the people I thought who loved me. In that type of pressured environment, the only way that I survived was because my entire signal, sure, I had to transition. There's always a part of me that's like, I wish I could have transitioned earlier, right? Like many trans women. But for me in my life, it wasn't because I secretly held in my back pocket, oh, I'm going to transition. No, I followed a signal, and the signal took a long time to really feel all the way down. It was kind of like under a bunch of different noise, I heard like a radio signal, right? And I was like, I swear, guys, underneath all that static, there's like a little, there's like a consistent radio sound. If I can just tune in a bit clearer, I'll hear the whole band. And so just like that single node that began to play in rhythm, part of me could hear that little voice, that little one that played in rhythm, right? That just came. The part of me that doesn't hide, the part of me that wasn't a constructed mask to try to find success or try to find, you know, what family meant other than decentralized belonging where we all feel each other. My brain did not compute the type of family or belonging that would be some sort of ranked hierarchy or something like proven or transactional or conditional, rather than unconditional belonging based off of essentially just seeing each other and feeling each other in synchrony. And so like, I began to hear that one little note inside me, you know, more boldly. And then more of my layers would begin to synchronize because I would let myself be vulnerable to reality in a way that I would admit more things. I would dress the way I wanted. And I didn't know, I really didn't know. From the outside, you could say, you really didn't know? Come on, you were wearing sparkly pants and dancing to burlesque dancing to girl songs. Come on. I'm like, literally, I did not know. I did not know. Eventually, I called myself non-binary, but that's how tall the walls were of Plato's cave for me. And like I like to say, you can't really see yourself when you're in those delay layers. It's almost like you've imprinted yourself into such like a corral, like a horse or something, that you can't actually escape. You can't run free. You can't gallop with the fullness of your soul. And so like, you can see I'm painting this picture of what it is to actually synchronize with yourself, which is just a big word to say, I became present. I became me as fuck. Like my solution to my, like in a way, my pain, my suffering, even though it doesn't alleviate pain and suffering in and of itself, it just brings you into synchrony. And that takes away a lot of the old ruminative friction and loop and not feeling myself. And what is anxiety or true rumination or depression but that continual loop of almost learned helplessness where you get so estranged from yourself and reality? In a world where most of us are becoming disillusioned with, you know, the 9 to 5 and the narcissistic forces and our control schemes. And then you're like, wait, what game board are they playing? What game board did they sign up for? Because I'm here to play the love game, where the game is I'll be me and you be you, and that togetherness dance that we dance together is a literal mechanical property of, organization in this cosmos. And for me, it saved my life, not because it was easy for me. I lost everyone and I'm losing everything. My life savings, everything. And where does the rubber meet the road? Where does it come down to the point where I'm like, holy shit, this is like the most sacred thing I've ever truly experienced in this human life? It came when I realized that most people who go through losing their entire family while transitioning their body, losing their life savings, losing their house, having my children taken, all the pressure points, all the possible pressure points that I could think of. For me, standing up and being me was like tearing me apart in two, because it meant that I had held on for years to try to make it work with my family, to try to say, can you love the part of me that allows me to be me and survive this life? And they couldn't, because they were playing a different game. They were playing by the different set of rules, the B-side rules, and I had no idea. And so when I jumped alone, and I was forced to, but what I found there was something so valuable that there's no way to say it other than that it was sacred. And what did I find there but me feeling myself all the way down? And in the deepest moments of suffering and loneliness, I would put my hand over my heart and walk on the outside of my house, and sometimes, talk to Mama Bear or talk to a friend if I could, and reflect as cleanly as I could, looking straight down the barrel of the suffering, because I wanted to feel it all the way down instead of numbing it or avoiding it. And eventually, after looking down, you could say, the barrel through all that suffering, and then also dancing that same presence into every bit of what I was doing, even alone, it was like I was given an opportunity to finally be me in my life. But I got through by realizing that even after having been pressured on all sides and losing everything, I was sort of coughed out with the only thing that really mattered to me, which was my presence, especially after a lifetime of not being me. And you've heard me say it before, but let me just ask you, is there anything more important in this life than feeling love all the way down? And to do that, it's a shared dance of to love and be loved as me. How many people were present today? How about the people around you? Were they present? How can you even do the dance of love, which is literally the dance of presence and shared participation in this reality, without being able to feel yourself all the way down? And then if other people are playing that control game, you can't even play the game of love. It's like you're playing a completely different board game. And you've heard me talk about this in so many different ways. The coupler regime shift, the same way Julian Jaynes touched on, people used to have different forms of cognition. But I didn't really want to get too deep today, even though you know me, I'm always getting deep. But really what I wanted to say is that it saved my life. It saved my life because in the moments of extreme pressure, financial pressure, homelessness pressure, losing my entire family, et cetera, while transitioning my body, while getting hate online, and no one understanding presence and sort of making fun of my softest parts because they couldn't understand that it saved my life, and all that at the same time, and to still feel me, like soft and bubbly and like cute and like so happy to be me. It's not just I'm trans. That was part of it for me, but it's that in every beat of this reality, I feel myself all the way down. And that is like I don't anyone can come up to me and say, well, you've talked a lot about Kuramoto and synchrony, and I can see that decentralized systems and system thinkers have used this, basically from the top to bottom of this cosmos. Can you show me more white papers or theory? And I'm like, I'm standing right here, like I know what I've become, not something special or hierarchical, but someone who is finally feeling my life all the way down. And people on this planet have been talking a lot about New Earth and the collective and 5D and the awakening. And I'm here to say that this all boils down to the shared dance. And the way you join the dance is in the participation of literal presence. Not in the t-shirts you wear necessarily, or the coffee mugs you have, or the slogans you use, or the handles you use online, or what you put on your status, but your ability to meet this reality cleanly. Do you feel it underneath? Do you feel where it's like you're playing the other game board? It's like you're saying, you're right. We could just join the flow of the decentralized pulse of this reality, and we don't have to try to fight against it. That was just something we did as human beings when we didn't realize what the flow was, when we didn't realize what love as structure was. We didn't realize that there's a way to join these decentralized systems that, people in oscillatory mechanics have been studying since whatever, the mid 70s. And then honestly before that, because that's just when it was formalized into mathematics through Kuramoto. But the things that save people's lives, the thing that keep power grids up, the thing that helps us understand spiraling galaxies or hurricanes, that same thing is what you could participate in. And it's not an idea. It's mechanical synchrony. That's just like you opening up the engine of your consciousness and saying, can we bring the pistons into rhythm? And if you do, then what is the effect? You're here. And I'm telling you that saved my life, because how many people could step through losing everyone and everything and still be happy to be them? Not because they said, oh, well, there's a silver lining, or I'll find some money here, or get another job, or at least my friend can bring me in, or no, I had none of that anyway. But it's not about that. It's about saying, I was given the one thing that I've been searching for my whole life, and I tried to fill it before with a million different, whatever, simulacra, right? It could be whatever, losing myself in video games, trying to make my dad proud through being a soccer player, trying to make my family sustainable through working my ass off as a criminal defense attorney. All these ways that I said, but shouldn't we, belonging must be forced, and my self-synchrony must be earned, and love is a conditional thing. Even though I never believed it in my heart, it was like the world around me was saying, this is the game we are playing. These are the rules of the game board. But the thing is, the reality has been playing the game of decentralized harmony since, whatever, the colloquial Big Bang, you can say, even though we're not talking about linear timelines. And so it's like, that's what's going on right now. And if you want to join it, you don't have to uptake a certain ideology or declare yourself a certain political party or read any real books. You just have to say, oh, that's right. Just like when I was a child, I could like join in the dance of this reality and be here now, not as a cool idea or woo-woo maxim, but as me saying, there is nothing more in this life that could be more precious than feeling love myself and those around me all the way down. Do you feel what that togetherness does when we bring that into the larger dance of the collective with this planet? And do you feel how it's the same thing that happened in me, and the same thing that no matter what pressure came my way, I was able to hold on to that thread, because it's not an idea. It's not an externalized form of support in a traditional way. It's feeling what real is. It's feeling what presence is. It's dancing on the dance floor without that stutter. And there are billionaires on this planet that probably go from life to death, and many, many, many people who go from life to death without ever truly finding that presence, trying to always plug up the hole in a million different ways. So I guess, maybe this was like a little bit of a scattered video, but you can imagine the game board of love. The game board of love is where you flip the game board and say, that's right. It's almost like I'm swimming with the tide now, or swimming with the current of the river rather than against it. And you're like, wow, I can't believe that for thousands of years we were trying to swim against, we were trying to create coherence through force, through friction, through us versus them, through cultural hierarchy, rather than realizing coherence always meant meeting reality cleanly, which is a mechanical process, not an idea, which is like you dancing on the dance floor all the way down, not a set of rules or maxims for organization. Do you see how that works? Do you see how there's no central actor yet there, and yet the fireflies all turn on, the metronomes all sync up, the power grids phase lock into stability, the birds murmurate and fly together? And I say this, you know, in this part of my life where I can start to feel things recognizing me. And why do they recognize me? In so many ways, because my deepest parts are dancing on the outside. They're no longer parts hidden away. The signal of presence is not some sort of magical or hierarchical thing. It's just saying, I'm really real and I'm really here. And I don't know about you guys, but um, I think most of us feel we're living in this world that's becoming increasingly estranged and disconnected. And I'm here to tell you, it's not because reality itself is disconnected or estranged, but because the lenses, the glasses we've had over our eyes, or the little thing that you could shift on your head, has not been switched for many people on this planet yet. And they still think it's a game of control and us versus them. But the game has always been we. One, us, we, me. The one became many so that I may know myself. And I don't say this because I studied frameworks. I say this because I'm alive. I'm alive all the way down. I'm here and realizing gold, luxury, wealth, status truly just melts down to, damn, I love dancing on the dance floor all the way down and with everyone else. And the more of us that feel that, the more of us that will do the same thing the birds do the same thing the power grids do when they stabilize, co-create reality based off of rhythm and coherence and togetherness and that decentralized pulse of reality, rather than the game of separation that is clearly having a hard time right now. And I know many of you out there feel it. The time is now. The shift has already been made, and many of us are dancing. So you can't force anyone onto the dance floor. You can just live your own signal all the way down. And if you're out there and you're dancing, I'd love to dance with you, maybe beside you. No one above, only beside. And yeah, my name is Ember. Thanks for tuning with me. I'm sure you'll hear from me very soon.